So we made our integrated terminal in our VS Code instance, and we can just do the same things, ls cd backend course, ls, go to the demos, and go to this folder where I have the example code in my computer, go to starter, and yeah, so I'm just starting out here. And say I want to start programming, I want to create our code, but the first thing you need to do is install your dependencies, right? So right now, this code imports Flask. If I haven't installed Flask, I can't actually run this. But I don't want to install a bunch of random dependencies on just my computer because it's going to bog down my dependency list. So I want to install it for like a per project type of thing. So if I'm in this location, I want to have these dependencies. If I'm doing a different project, I want to have their own. So the way to do this is with a virtual environment. So instead of clogging up your own environment with these dependencies, you can make a virtual one that simulates them for a directory. And the way you create this in the Mac is just Python 3. And then you say, let's see, -m-venv, and then the name of the virtual environment. I'm going to call it virtual n. Doing this will, if I go here, create a folder called virtual m in the directory I'm in. So if I do ls, but also, I guess it takes a while on my laptop. So let's give it a second. It'll create that there. You guys don't really need to go into the folder itself. And if you have assignments and you make one, make sure not to upload it. So this tends to be a very big folder. So now we have a virtual environment. How do we actually use it? So the way to turn on your virtual environment for for Mac is to say source dot slash the name of the virtual environment. So I named it virtual env, then slash double check. So dot slash virtual env slash bin slash activate, and it will activate itself. I think it'll show up differently on your terminals. My terminal is kind of different, so it doesn't actually say it, but it should say like in parentheses the name of the virtual environment, or yeah. So if you see that on the side of your text, that means it's working. And now you can just say pip3 install and then type in all your dependencies. Or if you have a text file with all of them listed out here like this, you can say -r and then the name of the file that you have there. We named it requirements.txt. And then your computer will start installing the Python modules that you want to use for your projects. So now that that's done, say you want to turn off your virtual environment, you just say deactivate. And that should turn it off and take you out of it. And for people who use Windows, you're going to want to say venv slash scripts slash activate dot bat. And that's how you turn it on if you have like a Windows machine. It doesn't work for my laptop though. So yeah, if I'm going too fast, make sure to tell me and I'll slow down a little bit. But let's start out with looking at the code. So this is just a basic Flask application. You import Flask and you define the app as an object of Flask type. And here it'll run your server. So app.run, you give it the host name. This is just localhost. You give it a port. Right now it's 5,000. And we set debug to true. So if we have any errors, it'll show up on our terminal and the browser or postnet if you're using that to connect to it. And we also have our routes. So app.route, you can define a route that you can connect to. So we have one that's just slash. So if you do type in localhost :port / you'll reach this route and it'll run this function hello that just returns hello world. And the way to run this is by just saying Python 3 app.py. So just running the Python file. Sending this will input name markup from this. Let me see why this isn't running. Oh, I turned off my virtual environment. I had to turn it back on to get my dependencies to work. And now we can see it's serving our app. It's has debug mode on, and it's running on this link. So you can like type it, you can press Control and click on it, and it'll open it up on your browser. And you can see right there, it says hello world. So yeah, it's just running a server. You can connect to it to your browser. You can connect to it with Postman. So if I were to go to Postman and try doing the same thing, just type it into URL. But I pressed it way too many times. Let me zoom back out a little bit. So typing in the URL with the port / press send, it should just say hello world in the window down here. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, what's that? Oh. So you can just say pip install Flask, and then it should just install it into your computer. But make sure it's on the virtual environment so you don't have to like install it for everything. So yeah, maybe open up the next slide. Here. So for the actual demo, what we're gonna make right now is a sort of task API. So say you have like a task app, you can create new tasks like I'm gonna do laundry. So I'm gonna put that on my task board. You can also take off tasks like, okay, I finished that task and delete it. You can look up all of your tasks like, so what's my first task? Do laundry. Okay, get it back. And then also you can update them, like say it's finished. So change it to finished. So if you guys want to follow along, we're just gonna make just a task app. So we can get rid of this. Do you guys understand like the premise of the demo? Just like create tasks, update them. Just like it's an example of it. An example of this thing. I guess like a reminders app where you have like a bunch of your tasks as reminders. So I guess the first thing we should start doing is how do we store the tasks that we make? For now, we're gonna just use a Python dictionary. So if we make this called tasks, we can store the IDs. So let's just I'm gonna make an example one. So for the task with ID of 1, it'll have say, for the first task, it'll have an ID. Let's say it will be 1. Yeah, it's 1. Its name will be do laundry. I guess we can just call it description. So this task is just me. I need to do laundry. And the final field will be done. This will be false because I have not done that yet. And so another example could be like this. The second task could be, say, you think, do homework. Maybe I have a homework assignment due tonight and I haven't done it yet. Actually, I do have a homework assignment due tonight. I should get to it. But do this. And then done, definitely false. I'll get to that after this class. Let me see what I messed up here. Yeah, let's get rid of this. So yeah, I just have a dictionary. Its keys are numbers and its values are just these other dictionaries that contain information on each task. So while we could use just like an array, it would be easier in this case not to, since we can just create new indices that are unordered, so we don't have to like pre-allocate the size. So we just like say tasks dot or tasks dot tasks 3 equals blah, blah, blah. We don't have to like care about indexing errors in this case. So if we're adding new tasks, we need to have some way to know like where our pointer is. So let's just say our task ID, task current ID, I guess. Right now it should be pointing at 2 because the next task will be the second one in the list and its ID. Since we're not doing it by zeros, will be 3. But this is just like setup stuff. So for the real stuff, we can say app.route, and we can make our own endpoint on our URL. Or let's start off with get. So we can say /tasks. Make sure to end it with a slash because if you do and don't, it'll make a difference in what the code expects. While it is valid to have no slash at the end, I think a lot of our assignments assume that they do have slashes at the end. So to be safe, just put that there. And so this is the Python decorator. The way it works is that if you put a function right under it, it will affect that function with its code. I think the function that affects it is the route function, and it just sets up the URL, but you don't need to know this part. So if we want to get tasks, we need to make a function called getTasks. This will get all of them. So what we can say do is this. We want to get all of our tasks, we need to have a response variable that will contain them all in a dictionary. And we can just put them in a list like this. Then do this. So what we're doing here is making a response variable. It'll go through each of the task values. So the ID1 description do laundry, then ID2 description do homework, and it'll put them in a list, and then it'll put them under the tasks key. So what I want to do now is send it off as a JSON. So JSON dumps turns it into a string instead of an actual dictionary. And we want to give it a response code to show that we were successful. So we're going to give it 200. So one issue you might see is that JSON is red. We're going to have to import that real quick. Yeah, let's see if this works. So running app.py, go to your browser. Oh, what happened here? Oh, if you got rid of the single slash endpoint, it won't know what to do when you reach here. So just put that back there and /tasks. And it should print out all of your tasks under the tasks key. So the first one, do laundry, shows up. The second one, doing homework, also shows up. So are you guys good with that part? What's up? So whether people like the stack there, or why don't you do it from that was just a default function that was in the starter code just to show how you can put them together. The status code isn't required. You can leave it. I tried doing this. Nothing happens. It's just mainly for like, I think Postman to just pick up on it. Let me see what happens if I try on Postman. Oh, I got rid of the slash. Let me put this back. Send it here. So you see here, it says 200, okay. That's the status. But if I get rid of this, I think it probably will stay there since we're not using requests. Yeah, it's not required right now since all it's doing is just returning a number. I think there'll be like other functions that'll really use it. But mainly this is the important part for now. But the 200 code, that just represents that it was a good request. If it's 201, then it's like you created something. So let's actually get into that part. So let's make a new endpoint called I guess create task. No, let's just do /tasks again. And then we can continue on. So one thing you need to know about, I made a mistake real quick. One thing you need to know about app.route, it assumes that you're making a GET request. But if we want to create a task, we want to use a post request so we can send data on our JSON body to like tell them what kind of information to put in the task fields. So the way to make it so it's a post request is to use comment and then type in methods and then set this equal to posts in brackets. So now it's going to assume that this endpoint is going to be for post. And while you might notice that these are the same endpoint, the way it like tells what you want to do is based on the header you send to it. Any way you can like change it is by going to Postman, clicking get, and you can just change it to be a post request. You can do delete request. You can do anything there. So it'll look at that and tell which one you want to do. So if I make it into posts, it's going to use this version of the route. And this one will be doing create tasks. So we want to create a task. We need to know where to actually put it in our dictionary. So we can make this a global variable, global task current ID. And it's going to reference the ID that's in the outer scope. So it's going to reference this one if we ever use this variable name. And since it's a post request, we can assume that we're going to get like a request body from the person that wants to create a task. So we can say body equals JSON.loads and then request.data. We will have to import request from Flask though. So import Flask and request. So here we look at the request that was sent to us. We look at its data variable and we turn it into a Python dictionary with JSON.loads and we store it in a body variable. Let's actually print out body and then try it out real quick. So say I want to make a post request, I can just using JSON format, type in test and then test. If I send this, what's going to happen? I forgot to change the URL. So make sure it's /tasks. Let's see. I also forgot to run the server. Oh, you have to do this. Return JSON.dumps. So I just want to see what the body variable will contain. And what I've just sent to the server was just JSON test, and it was able to actually retrieve it and send it back to me. This is in the body. So what matters is what we do with that information. So if we assume that the body has a description and a done variable, we can just say description equals body.get description. It's usually safer to use .get instead of just brackets description because .get will return none if it doesn't exist. If you use the brackets, like say body bracket description, if there isn't a description in the body, then it's just going to crash the whole server. So it's usually safer just to do this. And it does the same thing if there exists a description. So we have our description. Now we need to make our task. And this will just be following the same format as this. We can actually just copy this just to make it a little bit easier to write. So we're going to make a new task. It's going to go into task. Its ID is going to be task current ID. This right now points to this ID because ID is equal to 2. So what we want to do is ID, I guess we can do it here. Task current ID plus equals 1. And then we can just put it in our new task. Our description in our new task is going to be description variable we just made. And for done, we can just assume that it's false because why would you make a new task if you already completed it, right? So remember to get rid of the comma at the end. Now we want to put this in our database. So right now it's called tasks. We want to add in a new element. I have to do -1 just to, actually, let me just do this. 1, 2. So I just made the keys equal to the ID. So the first task has a key of 1, second one has a key of 2. And this makes it easier to create new tasks because I could just say task current task ID. Let me see what's up with this. I spelled this wrong. And you want to put the task in there. And then after that, you can just return the task like we did earlier with the getAllTask using JSON dumps, putting in the task, and then giving it a 201 response code. And that will send the user the new task they just made. So quick recap, we referenced the global task current ID, the one from up here. We then get the body of the requests using JSON loads request.data. This is the data of that request. We get the description from the body and we set it to description. We increment our current ID of the task. And then we just make a new task using the new ID, the new description, and then saying done is false. And then we just put it into the dictionary of all the tasks like that, and we send it back. And 201 means successfully created. So that's just kind of what that number means versus 200 itself. So if I test this out on Postman, say description equals do demo, and I send it to localhost/tasks. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Send this off. It sends back this. So do demo and done. And it gives us 201 created response code. One thing I can do real quick is console print out tasks. If I do this again, do demo again. Oops. You can see here the total database, ID1, do laundry, do homework, and then the new one I just made, do demo again. I think I might have made a mistake somewhere though. Seems like it didn't come out. The task ID. Let's keep going for now. So we can make new tasks. We can view them all using, well, I guess I could have done that. I could just do get and do this. And then you can see all the tasks we have, including the new one I just made right there using the get request version. So next up, we want to be able to change a task that exists, right? Let's say I finish a task, I want it to be done, or say a task kind of changed. I want to change the description from do lecture or from do demo to do lecture. So we can make another, let's see, we can make another endpoint for app.route. And do /tasks. Well, before we do that, let's try something simpler. Let's get a specific task using its ID. So the way to do that is to say int and then some variable var test. Let's call it task ID. So this kind of endpoint is kind of different from before. Here it's going to actually get the, oh, I missed the ending thing. This will get the value of the number in the URL. So if I say /task/2, I'll be able to access in the function getOneTask the task ID. So this variable will be defined. I can use it. So actually, no, you have to put it in here. You have to put these into your arguments. So it'll have the task ID in there. So what we can do is get the task by saying tasks.get. This will get the task from our database. And since this is something a user is using, let's say they give off a wrong ID that doesn't exist in our database. Since we're using .get, we can actually check if task is none. And then we can just return some sort of error message that just says this. Like say error task not found. And since this is like a not found error, this can be a 404 error. So that's just kind of like what you usually do if you see that it doesn't exist. You just check if it's none and then return something like this. Otherwise, if we did find it, we can just say json.dumps again. And then we can just return the tasks. Or not task, just the task itself. And then give off the 200 error because we found it. Let's see if this works. So let's say I want to get the first task. I just say /tasks/1 and send it. I also have to make sure to always run the server as well. And I was able to get the first task, do laundry. Let me try it off with the third one. And it says task not found. I think it's because I restart the server. Right now, since we're using a dictionary, it doesn't save the state between every time you run it. And we'll get to how to do that soon. But we do have task 2 we can try out. And this shows off the second one. So if we have like 100, 1000 even, it'll find that it's not existing and return task not found, which is what we want to do. Let's do something similar as that. So we want to have this, copy the endpoint with the variable task ID. Oh, it's already dying. But this time we want to actually make it a post. This is going to be for updating the task we choose. So let's say I put in task 1, I'll be able to send in new fields to change them. So let's call it define update task and give it a task ID. We can basically copy the old one. Just copying, getting the task using the task ID and then checking if it's none, because we need to know that the task exists. So now we have we also need to get the body. This is a post request. So you can say body equals JSON dot load, such it was. Request data. Now we can update the task we got. So assuming that they gave all the same values, we can say task.description. We can set that to be body.get description. And same for the done value. Task.done will equal body.get done. And then we might just want to return the task as well. Just back to the person that sent the update. So json.dumps task. And then this is also a 200 error code or response code. So in this function, we just got the task from our database. Give me a second to check my laptop.
Include documentation within the methods.
That's good. From there, if the task we got doesn't exist, return an error saying we didn't find it. Assuming it does exist, then we can get the data they send to the server. Yeah, that's it.
Why?
Could you repeat that? We could use put. I think it's just like pretty similar. You're sending data towards the server in both cases, but we can use put. Let me try using that instead. And put is just basically similar to post. The differences are pretty hard to remember. I think post is like it. I don't even know how to say the word, but you can use either post or put for updates. So it's, I guess for now, it's kind of your preference. So with the body, we just update the values in the task and then send it back. So let's test out how that works. Since this is a put request, we use put. We want to get the task we want to use, so I'll put in 2. And I'll update the task description to done. Will be, yes, true. And the description will be do demo. Again. Sending this. Yeah, so maybe I'll just run it again. Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, this is a small typo. Sending this request. Oh, don't forget the commas between fields as well. Sending this out changes the description to do demo again and done to true. And checking out task 2 by using a get request shows that that's there. And I guess we can also look at all of them. This is changed to be true. So one thing you guys might want to do if you make these functions is document them. I guess the easiest way to do that is with like doc strings. So you just say triple quotes, both sides. So 3 double quotes. And you can say like what the function does, gets all tasks and any parameters that exist. So this gets all the tasks. This creates a task. And this is really important because probably the only way you'll be able to define like what methods in post are, or the body you're sending to the request is. So I guess we could just say like parameters. Is it app parameter thing here? You can say description, task description. Just it's a good way, it's a good thing to do in case you have people you're working with and they have to see your code. It'll be probably best way to actually tell them what each function does. But after that aside, we have creating tasks, getting all tasks, getting a task, singular task, and then updating a task. So I guess the last thing left to do is delete a task. So that would work similarly to the last 2, like getting a single task, updating a task, since we need to pass a task ID. So copying the route, we can replace the method with delete, and then make the function delete task ID. Since we're getting an input from the user, we should check that the task exists before we delete anything. And if it does end up existing, we'll just say delete tasks task ID. That'll get rid of the task from the dictionary, and then we can optionally return the tasks back to the user. So based on the dumps task, and then 200, so that was a successful request. So just deleting the task, sending it back to the person that wants deleted, just for them to make sure that we were successful in doing that. So let me show that off really quick. So I want to delete that second task. I need to make 100% sure that I'm actually running. Oh, I might have made one error somewhere. Oh, this goes below the function there. Let's see, I did everywhere. So running this app.py. So I want to delete the second task. Let me do that real quick by using delete method. It seems like it works. Let's double check by looking at all the tasks and seeing if it's still there. Let's use a get request. And we only have one task. So that was kind of it for this demo. It was mainly just to show off how do you connect to the backend and just some functions you might do when using like create, update, retrieve, delete. In the future, we won't be using a dictionary, we'll be using an actual database. So stay tuned for that next week.